Welcome back for another week of DFS PGA, everyone. This week we got the Wells Fargo Championship. What's going to be a little bit different this year is the course. So looking at my article at dfsr.com, Quail Hollow is normally the course that's been used for this championship year in and year out. Quail Hollow this year will be hosting the PGA Championship this summer, so they have turned it over to Eagle Point Golf Club, also in North Carolina, this year. It's a par 72. It's just over 7,400 yards. They've added some distance. They've added some tee boxes. The biggest thing this week is the Eagle Point Golf Club has been closely compared to Augusta National in how they prepare the course. The superintendent there was the superintendent over at Augusta for 27 years. So he's got a lot of familiarity with Augusta, so this is probably the closest we're ever going to see to an Augusta golf course. A little bit, we've got wider fairways, we've got some straighter holes, so total driving, strokes gained off the tee is going to be important this week. As you can see, if we scroll down and look at my key stats, it's going to be a second shot course. We're going to be looking at approach shots, and specifically approach shots in that mid-range, because a lot of as you can see here, the par 4s are all under 475 yards. So going to see a lot of those mid-irons out there. Birdie or better percentage correlates really closely with DraftKings scoring. We've also got some weather this week, so scrambling, strokes gained around the green is going to come into play a bit, bogey avoidance, and that's something we're going to look at in this video. I'm going to go over my favorite plays in the cheat sheet, as well as some possible ownership advantages according to Fanshare Sports. And then we're going to jump over to Future of Fantasy, and we're going to look at some of the top win players, as well as some of the top bent grass players. That's the type of green that will be here at Eagle Point this week. And then at the end, we're going to have a look at the weather forecast and see if there's any advantages we can take there. So let's start by downloading the cheat sheet, and it is at the top of the article here. You can either click on the DFS PGA cheat sheet, or you can click on the image itself. It's going to open another tab. Looks a lot like this one. When you first open it, it is going to be view only. So what you're going to want to do, so you can build your own models, you can sort the columns, we talk about this every week, is hit File, make a copy, name it whatever you want, and click OK. It's going to open up your own sheet, and then what you're going to be able to do is sort any of these columns. So for instance, if looking at, scroll over here, and we're going to have a look at strokes gained approach. We're going to go to data, sort Z to A, which will be highest to lowest. And it's going to give us now listing our guys as they are ranked in strokes gained approach stat. And these stats are 10% from last year's statistics and 90% of this year's statistics, just to get a little bit of a, I guess, bigger sample size for the statistics. And then anyone that didn't play last year, they're just looking at their 2017 stats. So we're going to go back and we're going to sort by DraftKings and just go over a couple of my favorite plays. So looking at my original model here, I've got heavyweight on strokes gained approach and off the tee, like I said, touching on some distance. That mid-range, 150 to 175 yards. Scrambling, I think with the weather is going to be huge, so I put it at a 20 right now, and then birdie or better percentage at 10%. I didn't put anything for bogey avoidance because it kind of correlates closely with scrambling as well. So that's my original model. I'm taking zero account into course history this week because there's not been any tour players, any tour events that have been played here before. So I've got 60% on form, looking for players that are coming in on some really good form, and then 40% of my model is based on stats. So let's jump in, have a look at some of my top plays. Jon Rahm ranks number 1 in my overall model. He's my favorite play of the week. He's probably going to be chalky. Could be the highest owned player of the week, being $2,000 less than Dustin Johnson. But I just feel that Jon Rahm is a really good play. I tried fading him earlier, coming to a lot of these courses that are new to him. He's shown nothing but he's an elite player in the world. Looking at his strokes gained statistics, he's right there. If we go over to the rankings, he's second or third in every strokes gained statistic. He's a little bit rusty around the green, but 57th isn't bad in a field of 150 some players. And his putting's also been on too. And as you can see across the board, his stats are awesome. So he's coming in with some pretty good form. He's kind of fallen off from his top 5s, but still 27th isn't bad in his last tournament. 3 top 10s before that, including 2 top 5s. So he'll be my top play of the week. Probably have the most exposure to him. Probably, I'm thinking 35 to 40%. He's going to be for ownership in cash games, maybe a little less in that 30 to 35% range in GPPs, so I'm probably going to have 40 to 50% of my lineups with Jon Rahm in there. Dustin Johnson, just kind of looking at Fanshare Sports and jumping over to Fanshare Pro, the top 100. There you go. Jon Rahm's at the top. Dustin Johnson isn't too far behind. He's been tagged 27 times, but only 15 starts, 3 sits. So that's kind of where I am. I'm not really sure if I'm going to be fading him yet or not. I'm going to keep monitoring throughout the day. Chances are I'm just going to fade him with that $13,000. Just to try and get a more balanced lineup with Jon Rahm. $2,000 goes a long way, gets you from all your guys under 7K or around that 7K range to maybe even fitting in a couple guys in that 8K, 9K range as well. So that's where I feel for that. Something else that I noticed looking at Fanshare Sports where we can maybe get an edge is Phil Mickelson. So I'm just going to search Phil here. T20. So he's only been tagged 12 times. Start 7. So big difference from 32, Dustin Johnson 27. So I put Phil in blue on my sheet as I think he makes a nice GPP play at very low ownership. He fits the strokes gained approach. He's there as well. Something I like about Phil a lot is he's a good win player. If we jump over to win players here, we're going to find Phil in the top, I think that's 6, 7. So he's in the top 10 in the wind as well. And then going over and having a look, he's also on the list when it comes to bent grass as well. So I think Phil makes a great play for GPPs this week. And he's coming in, not bad form. 22nd, 55th, 7th, 34th, 65th. So he's got that upside. He does have that downside, especially at 10-2. But if he's going to be in the 5 to 10% ownership range, I want a lot of Phil this week. Next guy up, Paul Casey, I talked about. He's probably going to be up there in the top 5 in ownership as well. Coming in under 10K this week. If people are going to be fading the top guys, they're going to fall down. They're probably going to be picking on Adam Scott or Paul Casey there within $100 of each other on DraftKings. I lean Paul Casey a little bit just because I think he may come a little bit on. With the Augusta correlation, I think Adam Scott may find some popularity there. But both are coming in, as you can see. I like Paul Casey's. He's got a 6th, 41, 16th, 11th, and 39th, so he's coming in with some nice form as well. Two other guys that are probably going to be a little bit chalky are Haas and Molinari. I like them both. I lean Molinari myself. I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned, and so does my model. He's 3rd in my overall model this week. 17th at Quail Hollow last year, and he's coming in with excellent form. 22nd, 33rd, 7th, 20th, and 14th. So he's right there. Haas has been a little bit off form lately, missing his last cut. Not bad before that, but at a $9,500 price, I'm really looking at that top 10 upside, top 10 in DraftKings points especially. So that has me leaning a little bit more Molinari, but I still will have some Bill Haas as well. Another guy I like this week, Daniel Berger, down in that 8,300 range. He is over here on the bent grass as well. Grillo is right there, Phil Mickelson, Paul Casey. So those guys are all in there. Jon Rahm fits on there. Jim Furyk plays this week, Adam Scott. So this is a very good reference for finding guys that you should be able to adjust to the bent grass greens. Going back to the sheet, one guy, Berger's going to be popular. He's 10th in my overall weighted model. He's been mentioned quite a bit. Going over to Fanshare Sports, type in Berger. He's right there at the top, T5, mentioned 23 times with 17 start recommendations. So if you're looking for a little bit of separation in GPPs like I always do, I'm going to lean at Bien Hun An this week. Something I like about An, he's coming in, he's got top 50 finishes, so he's scratching the surface. It's really been his strokes gained putting that's cost him from getting the top 20s into the top 10. So 1 week of good putting, he should be up there because I love that he is 7th in strokes gained approach plus off the tee, 12th in off the tee, 21st in strokes gained approach. So this strokes gained approach plus off the tee is kind of like a ball striking. It's just combining strokes gained off the tee and approach together as one metric. He's top 20 in driving distance, which I'm looking at. The mid-irons aren't great, but with his added distance, I think it should help a little bit more get into this 125 to 150 range. So definitely, like I said, GPP only. There's not much safety there with him. He hasn't been great on the par 5s. He's been good on the par 4s, which is good to see. The stats over here aren't that great, so definitely GPP only for An, but I think he could be in that 5% ownership range, and he does have that top 10 upside, like I said. If he can sink some putts inside 10 feet, even avoid the 3 putts this week. That might be something I'm going to add to my sheet, is 3 putt avoidance with the big greens, big undulating greens that are there. You're gonna see some guys with some 20, 30 or more foot putts, and avoiding those 3 putts is going to be huge to not making those big numbers. Some other guys that are going to be popular this week, showing up on Fanshare Sports. William McGirt coming in with some nice form. He's got some nice Vegas odds. He's under 8K. He's got the driving action. Not really looking at that. Good drive percentage. He fits the strokes gained off the tees a little bit less on the approach, but you combine those two together as that ball striking 2.0, and he fits right there as well. Same with JT Poston. He's 33rd there. Emiliano Grillo. He's got some good upside current form, but he does have 4 finishes in the last 5 outside the top 40, so I think his ownership might be down a bit out of all these guys in this range that I'm looking at, but he does fit the stats model very well. 15th in approach plus off the tee. Doesn't top 51 in driving distance, and if we scroll over and just look at that driving distance number, he's at 291.7, so that's pretty much average coming in, looking at the field overall this week. Scrolling down a little bit more, a guy that I don't quite have a feel on his ownership this week is Martin Laird. He's T18 over here, mentioned 13 times, so 11 of those 13 have been for a start recommendation. So that has me thinking that he's going to be plus 10%. But not everyone can be up there that high, and this mid-range is just packed with a lot of guys. So I think he might come in a bit underowned. I like looking at his odds and seeing that 70 to 1 surrounded by guys in the 300, 200, even the 400 odd range here. So definitely be looking at him. He's over average driving distance. He's got the strokes gained approach. He's got all the strokes gained statistics covered. So definitely looking at him. Someone that stood out looking at Fanshare, I kind of came down here and got looking at the bottom of who's not being mentioned but kind of fits the model. Nick Taylor fit right in there. So I'll be using him a lot in GPP. Only mentioned 3 times, twice for starts. And if we go and look at his stats, he is right up there. He's got positive strokes gained statistics except for putting. So that's going to be his downfall, is putting, obviously. So if he can make some putts kind of in the same range as Bian Hanan, he hasn't been as bad as Ann with the putter, but if he can make some putts, I think he can be, I kind of sense a top 20 for Nick Taylor with upside of top 10 this week as well. So, and if you can get him that upside at low 5 to 10% ownership, I'm on board 100%. Vaughn Taylor's another one I pointed out. He isn't as great off the tee or strokes gained tee to green, but he does excel in the strokes gained approach. A little bit in the scrambling, so again, GPP. And if we come over here and look at Vaughn Taylor, he is not showing up, so he must be below outside the top 100. So he could be a low-owned choice as well. Dipping down, if you're using a couple of the top-end guys and looking for some stars and scrub options, one guy that really hasn't been talked about a lot but seems like he's an excellent value for number 85 in the world golf rankings, all 2 of them actually, is Alex Noren and Graham McDowell. I'm not really looking at Noren too much. He doesn't really fit the model, but Graham McDowell definitely does. And I'm just going to go double check, but the other day he wasn't getting mentioned really at all. And he's still not coming up on here as being mentioned a whole lot. So just think there's a lot of value there for the type, the level of player that you're getting with him. He fits the statistics there. He isn't excellent in any of the strokes gained statistics besides putting, but he is, above 0. He's not in the negatives in any of those. He doesn't have the distance, but he's a very accurate player. And then looking at over here at the 150 to 175, 70% greens in regulation from 150 to 175 is excellent. Looking at some of his other stats that stand out, par 3 scoring, not that big of a deal, but we start getting in this mid-6, lower 6K range. Seeing these guys in the top 30, top 40 in the field in some of these stats is very positive, especially when we're looking at the scrambling, sand save, and birdie or better percentage. So definitely on my list as well. Stuart Sink is going to be another one. He's got a lot of green stats going through here. Par 4 scoring, par 5 scoring. He got bogey avoidance, birdie or better percentage. He's not the greatest scrambler or sand player, but if he can hit a lot of greens, I think he's going to be there. He's not a guy I'm looking at really a whole bunch of upside, but I think he can definitely make the cut. And looking at, top 30, top 40 finish for sure for him. Even looking at his form, outside of that 88th, he's had four top 30 finishes in his last 5 tournaments. So definitely on the list as well. Could be a little bit higher owned just because of those statistics and that form, but definitely a guy that I think you can feel a little bit safe about making the cut this week. A guy you probably should not feel safe about is Harold Varner. He's top 20, 18th here, as you can see in my overall model. He's really up and down with his form. He does make cuts, so what I would suggest is if you're using him, you play both FanDuel and DraftKings, I would concentrate on using him on FanDuel rounds 1 and 2, simply because looking at his scoring average before the cut, he's been pretty good, actually almost a full stroke better than his scoring average on the weekend. So definitely a guy I want to look at early. He's got that eagle and birdie upside, so he can definitely score for DraftKings. Guy I think is going to be really under-owned, really looking at this week, top 40 in my models, Ryan Brehm. He fits a lot of the stat. He coming off a 35th, probably looking at a top 40 for him as upside. So there isn't a whole bunch of upside there, but he fits the model. He's really good on distance, 7th overall in the field in driving distance. Top 50, top 60 here in the strokes gained stats out of a field of 150, and that low 6,200 price tag I think makes a lot of sense. He's only 4,800 on FanDuel, so you get a big discount on him there. Like I said, if I'm running 10 lineups, I'm probably only going to have him in 1 or 2. I think that'll be enough to be overweight on him because he's probably going to be in that 2-3% range maximum. One of my favorite plays last here is going to be Brandon Hagee at $100 more than minimum salary on DraftKings this week. 38th in my model. He's right there in distance as well, averaging 309 yards on the year. Not very accurate, so that's one thing we're going to have to look out for with him, is if he gets maybe out of control a little bit off the tee, he's going to be hitting a lot of shots, out of the pine straw in the trees, possibly hitting some water. That definitely is the reason why he's down in the 6,100 range. He's not safe, but he does have that upside. He fits the off the tee, which most of that has to do with distance. Kind of concerned about the negative 3.37 in the strokes gained approach. But in the wind, I think his distance can definitely help play, especially in the wet conditions on Friday. And then one thing that also stands out that I like about Hagee this week is his scrambling. He's top 20 in scrambling, top 25 in sand safe. So par 5 scoring, obviously that's going to correlate with that distance a lot, as well as top 35 in par 4 scoring. So he is one of my favorite GPP stars and scrub targets if you're trying to get in, say, at the top, a John Rahm and Mickelson, or a Mickelson, and even if you're trying to play DJ this week, dipping down to that 6,100, I think you can grab 2 or 3 guys in that low range to play some stars and scrubs. So we kind of went over some Fansure Sports, some ownership stuff. We looked at some strokes gained on the wind side of things at Future of Fantasy. Some bent grass guys we looked at here, maybe some guys I didn't mention who are in the field, Zach Johnson, Patrick Reed, Bill Haas. So Bill Haas shows up on both sheets. There's Emiliano Grillo. I think he makes a great play this week as well. I didn't mention him over on the cheat sheet. Paul Casey again, John Rahm. These are guys that are putting, have positive strokes gained on that bent grass greens. Lastly, we're going to go and just look at the weather forecast, see if we can grab anything. So 81 Fahrenheit there in Wilmington, North Carolina today. Looking at Thursday, the wind starts to get up, like we're looking at about 9 a.m. here, the start of the tee time. So we're going to looking at 14 to 16 mile an hour winds. Within an hour or two, we're going to be up around that 20, and the wind's going to stay constant pretty much through Thursday and Friday between that 18 and 22 mile an hour. Probably see some gusts in the 25 to 30 range, maybe even more. What's most concerning, I guess, so I'm not really looking at wind. I'm not going to let that factor my AM, PM times. What we're going to want to look at is a chance of rain on Friday. So it looks like it starts overnight, kind of through the night. We got some rain, thunderstorms through the night there, and into the morning tee times again. We're still got like a 70% plus chance of rain for that first 2-3 hours of the morning. If that's the case, and the tournament plays, there might be an advantage to those Friday AM guys because they're going to maybe get some softer conditions when they start around noon, 10, 11 o'clock. Now, if they don't play and that gets delayed, there might be some advantage. If it doesn't play and it gets delayed, the advantage, like I said, might go to the Friday AM guys. If it does play and those Friday AM guys have to play through that rain and some of those maybe crappier conditions, the Thursday AM, Friday PM may be the advantage. So I'm going to keep monitoring the weather just to see how much rain is actually going to fall. Like, they're not calling for lots. If we go into the daily forecast here again, as you can see, maybe 1.5 inches between all of Thursday and Friday. So that's enough rain where it could make some moist conditions, but I don't think I'm going to let this affect my decision making. I've already got my favorites picked out, and I don't see anything real too big of an advantage. But like I said, I'm going to keep monitoring Twitter. I will update you in the comments section, in the chat over at DFSR, and on my Twitter handle as well, at Jaeger_bombs, and you can hit me up there if you have any questions. Also, if you have questions, you can go to my article, and at the bottom, jump into the comment section. Looks like I got some questions to answer here already. Post it here. Make sure to check off that you're not a robot. If you're a robot, I'm not answering your questions, so just make sure to check that off. And I will also be in the chat room for the rest of today talking baseball and PGA and NASCAR as well. So you can jump into the public chat room, or you can click on the menu here and you can jump into the specific chat room, click on chat, and you can click on the NHL, PGA, NASCAR chat here. A little more specific to those niche sports, so that's a good place to definitely head over if you want to ask me some questions going in. I'll be there probably until 10 or 11 Eastern tonight. So other than that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I'll be coming out with some more videos soon. Strategy for MLB, PGA, NASCAR, you name it. There's lots of videos coming, so subscribe and you'll get notifications when they come out. And thanks for watching, and have a great week, everyone. Get that money.